Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Katelyn from Florals.com, and welcome back to the second to last episode of the After the Glue Dries series. Today I thought we'd do something a little bit interesting and fun that could work in multitudes of ways, whether it's before or after your layout's created. So hopefully guys will enjoy that. But make sure you check out all of the other episodes in the playlist linked down below so you guys can catch up on all the fun things we've talked about so far. And with that, next week on Saturday, I'll give you the final update of my progress so far. I thought I'd make a lot less progress, to be honest. Granted, I started with like 8 boxes full of layouts that needed to be taken care of. We've definitely dwindled that down, reconsolidated, done some different things, but really happy with progress I've made. Today, though, we'll be talking about journaling and story ideas. So again, this could be used before or after your layout's completed. And I have a notepad here to kind of go through the process with you, just for different ideas on how you can tell your stories a little bit differently, from a different angle, from a different detail point, whatever it might be, just to jazz up your journaling if you're feeling a bit uninspired. So grab a photo. This one's from the cruise that I took earlier this year. Grab a paper and pen, and we can go through this together. And if you guys like to tell interesting stories, over on my Patreon, I do a monthly story starter series where I give you guys prompts and you can expand on those to tell different stories on different subjects. So that's been really fun. And this is sort of a take on that, except going off of a photo in particular. And like I said, this could be used prior to making a layout in order to get a mood and feel down to pick which story you're going to tell, or after you've made the layout and you want to make sure you're getting all the details right before you go to your page. So it really depends on what you want out of your layout and your process in general. So in terms of storytelling, usually you start with the W's, the who, what, when, where, and why. So the 5 W's are usually where people tend to start. So you usually want to cover who's in the photo, or what's in the photo, when, where, and why. And the why is where it gets tricky. That's where the actual story seems to come in, and this depends on your storytelling capacity. I know some people who just do the who, what, when, where, just a quick sentence on their layouts. Sometimes that's enough. That's typical for photo albums back in the day as well. So perhaps you have photo albums that you're renovating or redoing from heritage photos and you're scanning all of those kinds of things. So maybe you're doing basic journaling on those for things you weren't actually a part of or alive for. I know I've done some photos that I wasn't alive for, from my brother's childhoods, or, you know, just from things that I was too young to remember at the very least. But for this instance, I was, you know, just a few months younger than I am now. So once you have these 5 down, and I know the why's a little bit hairy because that's where we can get into it, but something that I like to do when it comes to storytelling is sort of like a word map, or you might also consider this a brain dump style, where you just talk about the memory at hand. So this was in Mexico, and we went horseback riding on the beach, which I think is an important detail. And I'll have to look up some of these specific items, like which beach it was, what city we were in, just to be sure. I could ask what were the horses' names. I can't remember that off the top of my head, but I can ask the cruise group if they remember. It might be in my vlog too, so if you have video memories, sometimes those can unlock some things. So go back through your Instagram stories, your Snapchat stories, whatever you might have caught a glimpse of, or in your video files on your phone or camera. That might unlock some memories as well, because I think oftentimes we just jump right in based off of what we initially think off the photo, but sometimes we could miss capturing part of the story. Day number what of the cruise? So was this the first day, the second day, the third day? I'll have to look at the itinerary to remember. It seems like it's a blur sometimes, especially when it comes to vacations. I don't know about you guys, but I find them particularly hard to capture because they are such a whirlwind of adventure or relaxation. You know, if you go to on a beach vacation, you're essentially on the beach a majority of the time. And if these vacations are further back in your memory, if they're a few years old, even if they're, you know, February of this year seems like it's 20 light years away by now, it can be hard, and I totally get that. So this is why I like to do something like this to help unlock some of those items that we might have initially forgot about. Another tip is asking those who were there And that's a great way to capture memories a little bit differently. Because if you were to ask your child who was there, your grandparent, your father, your mother, whoever might have been there, your friends, your coworkers, they might have a different memory of the event than you do. And that's the funny thing about memories, is everyone has different ones. And who knows whose is right. It really depends on a lot of factors. But you could get a he said, she said for a specific event, or you could get a child's perspective, you know, just getting a different perspective on the event. So this was before we went horseback riding. So this was when we were mounting the horses. And this part was interesting. I actually don't have all of the photos printed from this yet. So if you guys are doing a mass album, and I do have a couple album planning videos, I'll have those linked down below in case you guys are interested. But if you're doing a specific album, like a vacation album, and you have a whole timeline, it makes it much easier to figure out which photos you should print and what stories go with them. So for example, I don't have this photo printed, but essentially we went horseback riding. After that, we went to the beach after we were done, because obviously we rode the horses on the beach. We stayed at the beach afterwards and relaxed. And when we got back onto the boat, I had a ginormous bruise develop on my leg from riding the horse. Now my horse's saddle had a lot of bejeweled pieces on it, like it was all decked out. And I think the one side in particular had something that was a bit rough. And so I developed a giant bruise from that. Now, will I necessarily print that photo? I don't know, but should I put it on this page? You know, just kind of getting those ideas down. And like I said, you could use this as part of your actual layout planning process, like I am before I make the layout, or just developing the journaling after your layout's created. So I could grab one of my finished layouts and essentially just, you know, look at it, say, okay, I know where this is. This is a DC layout for this instance. It's during the cherry blossom season because of all the cherry blossoms. So I already have the theme of the layout done, but I do have to add journaling and the date. So I could think about, do I want to talk about how cold it was that day because it was springtime, yet I'm wearing a winter coat and a winter scarf, and my cheeks are very, very red from the wind. Or do I want to talk about how the cherry blossoms were so, so beautiful, and it was absolutely gorgeous, and we called mom to show her all the cherry blossoms over FaceTime. You know, there's lots and lots of different ways you can take a story. And a lot of times we don't put everything down because we run out of space. We don't feel like it. I know a lot of us aren't what we would consider professional storytellers, but you are the best person to tell your story. And I think we often forget that piece of it, that just because we're sort of putting ourselves in charge doesn't mean that we don't have any authority of it, because we do have the authority to tell our stories the way we want to. So making sure you're putting down the memories you want to remember, the details you want to remember, or you want others to remember, because if you're doing a page for your youngest child perhaps, and you want them to remember all the funny things they did when they were younger, you know, their catchphrases or their funny sayings, whatever it might be, you want to make sure you're capturing as much as you can on your pages. And sometimes that might mean journaling on the back. I know several people who have done that, just adding journaling onto the back of the page just because it doesn't fit on this one. We also shared some, in a previous episode, we shared some tips on doing hidden journaling. So if you need to add additional journaling to your page, that's definitely a way to do so. But back to the Mexico example, if you wanted to brain dump, you could essentially just write, it was hot, it was fun. Just start writing descriptor words. Sandy, because it was a sandy beach. It was buggy in the marsh sections. And just looking at photos, I think you guys as scrapbookers might get this a bit more, is you become very, 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 very nostalgic about a specific event because of the way you captured it. Because oftentimes scrapbookers capture events a little bit differently than non-scrapbookers, I would say. Even going through my journey with scrapbooking personally, I can see those waves of like, I wanted to take as many pictures as I could of these different small details so I could remember them, versus previously when I wasn't as into scrapbooking, I would take one photo and now I can't remember nearly as many details as if I did today when I would take a bazillion photos. So we also had 2 other people on the trip with us that were waiting for their rest of their team to show up, but they didn't show up for their appointment, so we got an early appointment. And so we were one of the first horseback rides that day, if not the first. and it was really, really fun. And again, I already have the horse names down that I want to look up or figure out. And I could go further into this story. Is this an avocado tree next to us? Oh, I think that's just a leaf. That was very confusing. I'm like, there's no way, right? But anywho, I think that this photo in particular might spark certain memories, whereas I could go through the other photos of this particular day and find something else, you know? That's just how it goes. So this is me on the horse. You can't see the horse, but that's just me on the horse. So there's that. These are all out of order, so you will not be able to find the right ones easily, but I put all those in order at some point. But I talk about that fiasco earlier when I got those photos in the mail, and they were all completely out of order. Oh, what a disaster that was. So in terms of unlocking the storytelling, several ways to do it. You can do this before your layout's done, before you plan it out to get your mood and feel down, because then you'll know which story you're going to tell, or you can do it after. I'm definitely a afterthought journaler still. I still like to journal on my layouts after they're completed, not necessarily have the journaling all written out already. But as you can see, I've put a lot of points down here, and this is great because I can really determine what's a priority in the story for this particular page in this particular moment in time. So I could crop this into a 4x4, include some of the other horseback riding photos we have, etc. So it's really, really fun to go through a system like this, especially if you do it on a wider scale. So you could do your whole trip here and actually go through the timeline of things to capture which stories you want to tell. I think that's a little more in-depth than I usually do, but I do usually put my photos in an order that makes sense for my storytelling, which I've shared before. And I just think it's a fun way to get some different ideas on paper. And again, asking other people who are there will give you a completely different perspective and will provide different insights about that memory that you might not particularly remember, and also bring up even better memories that you do want to document. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this fun little exercise. I think it's super fun. There's tons of story writing prompts out there to help you, not even just particular to scrapbooking, but particular to storytelling in general. So hopefully you can use some of those online resources. But I know this is a fun memory that I'm excited to scrapbook about, but I got to figure out some of the details first so that I can accurately capture it. So I might want horse embellishments that I might have. I know there's a couple Maggie Holmes collections that feature horses. I might want some Mexico themed embellishments because this was in Mexico. Beach themed elements because we horseback rode on the beach. We did see some wildlife, if I remember correctly. I think we saw Gutamundes, which are like their version of raccoons in the hotter areas. I might have seen snakes, and I know we saw birds. I don't think we saw monkeys or anything like that on this particular trip, but I also have video footage, so I can actually go back and review that to help me conjure up all of those memories. I think I recorded almost the entire ride on the GoPro, so I think that'll be really, really fun to capture. And also get my horse's name, because I really want to make sure that's documented, because they were great horses, and they deserve their spot to shine in my scrapbook. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it's a little bit different. We're talking about journaling, and I think it's also something that people don't talk about a lot, so it's really important to highlight different ways that you can go about doing that. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and let me know if you guys have any questions. But thank you so much for watching. I'll include some links in the description box for details about this playlist, as well as some educational resources on how you can help with all the things going on in the world recently, because there are so many people who could use your help today. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.